and welcome to Elizabeth Magical Garden, a magical garden reaching for the stars.
Hey guys, welcome back. Be sure to check out the show notes at the bottom of this recording because I usually have a lot of cute little tidbits along the way, and you also get to follow me on Instagram at Elizabeth Magical Garden. All the information will be down below. Hi, my name is Elizabeth from Elizabeth Magical Garden, a magical garden reaching for the stars. Guys, welcome back to the podcast. I pray that all is well, and I pray that all is blessed. Guys, we are almost, if not in February, I am batching these episodes for you guys. You already know I'm so excited. I feel like, when you're like on a thrilling run, if you ever ran before, if you used to run, I used to run until my knees, whatever. But I just feel like I'm on such a high with batching these episodes for you guys. And anyway, guys, welcome back to the podcast. I pray that everybody is doing so well in these cold but blessed winter months, because let me tell you something. The cold is hitting. The other day, I found myself on a walk. Dare I call it a pilgrimage? Okay. Who did I think I was? Could you tell me why would we walk so far in the cold? Well, I'll tell you why. For peace of mind. Guys, I am really big on my morning walks. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a struggle these last couple of days because last week I went on a walk and I didn't have the idea that the walk was going to be that long. But I don't know, I just felt so good, and the air was, I was just so happy. You know what it was? I was so happy to be outside. I was so happy to be outside. I just kept on walking. And next thing I know, I was at one of my favorite parks. If you live in New York City, you'll recognize this particular park I am talking about, which is Prospect Park. Ooh, yes, Prospect Park. And I walked all the way over there. Now, it's doable, but it is a long walk. Dare I say it was at least an hour and a half walk. Now, to some, it may not be so too much of a big deal, but it was a big deal to me, honey. I was walking, but it felt so good. I was sightseeing in my neighborhood. I was just observing a lot of things that I normally probably wouldn't. I like to do that sometimes. Sometimes I like to kind of pretend that I am a tourist in my own neighborhood, because I feel like a lot of times when we're walking, think about it, you know where you're going. We got places to go, especially in New York. Nobody got time to peruse. New Yorkers, we about the business. We're moving and shaking. You got to have your city legs when you are in New York City. If you think that you can move around and just be perusing around and looking and stopping short in front of a New Yorker, I mean, good luck, because you might hear some words that you may not want to hear. So being able to do that felt really good. I felt energetic, but I was tired. I was so tired and I walked back. I walked there, right? I walked there. I walked in the park, which the park of itself is massive, right? So I think I sat down for a little bit here and there, but I walked there. I walked in the park, took in the scenery. I had I had all intention to take the train back because I remember saying to myself as I'm walking, I'm like, girl, you taking the train back? Of course I didn't. Of course I didn't. I walked back and yeah, it kind of like set the tone for the rest of the week. So with that all being said, these walks that I been taking has been a little sparse here and there, and I always feel the difference when I don't go for my morning walks. I mean, it's just it just morning walks for me is not only does it help my back because I do a lot of sitting. I do a lot of sitting because if I'm not recording these episodes, if I'm not editing, I'm also writing. So with all of that, it's a lot of sitting. And yes, I do have a standing desk, which helps somewhat, but I say this all to say that I'm just happy to be here in the warmth because it's cold outside. But guys, today's topic, I know that was such a long intro, and thank you for being so kind, for being patient while I share. We got to always, catch up a little bit. I want to discuss setting boundaries and why it's important. Now, I touched a little bit on this, I believe. I don't exactly remember what episode that was, but you're more than free to listen to all the episodes. But I did touch on it, especially when I was talking about a, dark feminine energy. Now, although, and I did promise that I will do a kind of like a playlist in terms of dark women feminine energy. This is not it, but setting boundaries definitely has a lot to do with how we see ourselves. And I find that a lot of times when we have problems or issues, however you want to say, in this area, is because, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it, the lack of self-respect. Yeah. It's not until you have a decent, good relationship with yourself, having personal boundaries will not be really a thing for you. A lot of times, I know for myself, I have people pleaser syndrome. Yeah. I suffered from that for a very long time, but I'm here to say that I am a recovered people pleaser. You know what I mean? And, but it's still there. You know what I mean? It's still in me. Just because you heal from something, if you had an issue with that, I hate to break the bubble for you, but if you have an issue with certain things or certain things was a sensitive spot, 9 times out of 10, it's going to always be a sensitive spot. But you have accumulated the tools to be able to bypass that sensitive spot, if that makes any sense. It's just like a person that works out. There's always that one side that's a little more stiff than the other side. And you may have to give a little more tender love and care on that side. Maybe hold the stretches a little longer on that side where you probably don't have to do that as much on the other. So it's going to always be a thing. But here's the thing. When you start to practice boundaries, after a while, it takes on a life of its own. People start to get a hint, right? People start to get it, because nobody likes to hear no. Nobody likes to hear no. Nobody likes to be shut down. And when I say shut down, listen, sometimes you have to be a little aggressive, and that's okay. I'm giving you permission. It's okay. It's okay. Because what happens with an alley cat when you back them into the wall? Okay. So you do what you have to do, right? Because if you make it clear, now it's not fair. I say this before I go in, it's not fair to the other person or to the other party if you lash out and you have never expressed your boundaries. okay, because you didn't have the heart to open your mouth and express yourself. So now you want to be lashing at everybody because you are overwhelmed, tired, or exhausted. And now everybody must suffer because you didn't do your due diligence to learn how to express yourself in love, right? So that's different. But if you have done your due diligence, you have shown and proved over and over again. I mean, it should only be once, but anyway, you have communicated what no longer serves you and what you need, and that party is ignoring you. Well, you have carte blanche, honey. Okay, you do you. But I would say, there's so many ways to skin a cat. You don't have to pick up the phone. You can stop talking to that person altogether. Hey, goodbye. I have no problem. Let me tell you something. My mental health, because sometimes even having a conversation with certain people, that's a setup, right? Because some people are really strong in that area. Listen, manipulators are professionals. They didn't get to where they are by mistake. They know what they're doing. Their tools are vast, okay? And the gaslighting, like people used to like to say, is real. And if this is already an area that is a sensitive part, a sensitive topic for you, it's sensitive altogether, you may not be strong enough for the fight, and that's okay. Know that too. Know thyself, because you have nothing to prove to anybody. You have nothing to prove to anyone, but everything to prove to you. Plain and simple. Because I personally feel, and this is just my opinion, I personally feel like people that manipulate, they seek people out, right? They start very slow. They start off very faint, and they gather little information about you, right? They see how eager you are to do more, even when they know and you know that you can't, but you go out your way, and then they gas you up. Like, I don't know if we still say that. Like, do people, like, guys, am I dating myself? Do people still say gas up? Well, I'm gonna say gas up because that's what we used to say. I mean, that's what I'm still saying. They'll gas you up, okay, blow your head up with all these accolades. Oh my God, you're such a good person. Oh my God, but no, you're tired. Oh my God, but thank you. Oh my. And here you are, alter ego. You're feeling so good. You can't do it anyway. You're crying inside, but you're doing it anyway because you are you're feeding off of the notion of being appreciated. That was me. Maybe not you, but that used to be me, And it's so funny because when you start to understand, you start to see the pattern of how it's uncanny, how different people are saying the same things. Shout out to my mom. But Mom, you know what you did. She used to gas me up to make tuna fish. Now, I'm not going to lie. I make a mean tuna fish. I know. Listen, when you're gifted, you're gifted. And I used to make, still do, but we're talking about back then, a mean tuna fish. I think I was about 14. I'm going to say 14. I'm going to say 13, 14, but really 14, I feel like. Maybe a little older. But anyway, I was a teenager. And around lunchtime, you know how you do, like, oh, what are we going to have for lunch? What do you feel like or whatever? And then she was like, you know what? Do you want to make tuna fish? And no, not do you want to make tuna fish? It went something like, do you feel like tuna fish today? And I'm like, oh, that sounds good. you know what? You make the tuna fish because you make the best tuna fish. Like, because I can make the tuna fish, but you, Liz, you make the best tuna fish. So you know me. I'm puffy. I'm all puffed and up and ready to make the tuna fish because guess what? I make the best tuna fish, my mom says. And it wasn't until I was still a teenager, but like I was like maybe like higher up in my teens when I was living with my mom. And I remember one time she said that to me and I looked at her and we both started laughing. I was like, Mom, you always say I make the best tuna fish. She's like, well, no, but you do. And I'm like, do I? And that's just a fun example, but it's a real thing. It's a real thing. And I personally blame you and me because we are eager seekers. Is it eager? It's not eager. It's, what is that word I'm looking for? Ego. We are feeling how inflated our ego is, right? And what do? We go make the tuna fish because we're feeling ourselves. Who doesn't love accolades? Who doesn't love a good thank you? Who doesn't love the gratification of seeing somebody else happy? And I feel like people pleasers really, really live in that selfless, like, more you than me. But it can also turn into a little narcissism, but sism, if that's a word. Okay, we're making up words today. You know what I mean? Because, why do you need those accolades? A lot of times it's because, maybe you haven't gotten it in other areas in your life. Maybe there's other areas that you may not be the best in. For me, when I was younger, I you know what? I feel like I'm not going to sit here and say I was the best at everything because I wasn't. Like, I know I struggled in school. Like, school was like, and especially, it's not like how it is now. Like, oh, you're an artist? We celebrate that. I have always been artistically inclined. And I at the time I wasn't diagnosed, but dyslexia is a real thing, right? And I felt stupid. I felt dumb for a very long time because of, especially in my day, it was just different. Education was different. They didn't know a lot of things. They just call it learning disability, which it is, but it's basically the way you see things are different. So you need a different angle. Whereas back in the day, they taught everybody one way. You did it one way, and if you couldn't do it that way, you was just thrown in the mix with everybody else, like kind of like a garbage pail, a potpourri of so many different things. Whereas now, we have a slew of so many different categories. We have stars that are claiming to be, not claiming, but claiming, because they're saying that they are, dyslexic, or they had some type of other mental situation going on and stuff like that, to where it's like, oh, okay, there's empathy. There's empathy there. Whereas when I was growing up, not so much. Now, my mother had empathy. My mother always did the things, the tutors and all this other stuff, but it doesn't change the fact of when you are around your peers or in a institution and it doesn't celebrate you, and you feeling like, well, why me? Like, why am I struggling in this area? Why am I always the one having to raise their hand? And my mother would always say, always raise your hand. If you don't understand something, raise your hand. But what about if you're always the one raising your hand? After a while, you're going to feel like a little, maybe I don't want to raise my hand today. Maybe I don't want to feel like I'm holding back the class, so to speak. So I feel like if I had to analyze a lot of my people pleasing, because guess what? When you are lacking in a particular area and you are great in other areas, what are you going to do? You're going to lean into those other areas because you feel good in those areas. So like I said, I've always been artistically inclined. I'm really good with my hands. Still, listen, if I could build, I kid you not, if I could build a whole house by myself, trust me, I would. Now, you never know with all these things that they're inventing, but you need a team. I do love carpentry, but at the end of the day, come on, girl. Okay. With that being said, I feel like if I had to be perfectly honest with you guys, I do believe my people pleasing started from there. And of course, I'm sure there was other things, but if you are like me and you find yourself to be a people pleaser, boundaries is something that you really need to have at the forefront, because you will get God. You will be eaten up at like bait on a hook. Because people, unfortunately, they seek out people like you and me. And just because you find your voice, not to, like I mentioned earlier, not to bust a bubble, but it's always going to be a certain amount of guilt of not doing it, because I find that people pleasers really genuinely love to make others happy. Like it's a real selfless act for them. And we don't live in a society where it is an innocent society. It is what it is. So you will be manipulated and taken advantage of. But if you start working on having your own personal boundaries, you will find your voice. I will guarantee you. And so how do we do that? How do we get on the road of having personal boundaries? How do we do that? How do we achieve that? Well, number one, keeping promises to yourself. If you say, I am going to get up at a certain time every day, you have to get up at that certain time every day. If you say, I'm going to work out 3 times out the week, I'm going to go to the gym 3 times out the week, you have to go to the gym 3 times out the week. I don't care if you go to the gym and leave. I don't care if you only are there for 5-10 minutes, but you went to the gym, if that makes any sense. Keeping promises programs you in such a way where now it's like, I'm tired, I can't do X, Y, and Z. So you made up your mind. And because you're used to keeping promises to yourself, you're going to be more assertive to others, right? And then you're going to expect others to respond as such, because remember, we can never give to others or expect things from others that we don't give to ourselves. So having an exercise of keeping promises to yourself is one of the easiest ways to work on the recovery of being a people pleaser. The next one is saying no. No, the word no is the same in every language, I believe. I could be wrong, but no. No is no. If you say no, which actually, again, goes back to keeping promise to yourself, because guess what? If you say no, that's a promise to yourself, right? If you say, I'm not doing this today, you have declared and made a decision to yourself that you are not going to do X, Y, and Z. So when somebody comes along and asks you to do that very thing, that little voice in the back of you is going to say, remember, you said no, you made a promise. And because you've been already on a road of recovery, of keeping promises to yourself, it's going to have to be no. And then after a while, this attitude will compound upon itself, and people will start to understand who you are, right? They will still come, maybe some will fall to the wayside, and be prepared. Be prepared for people to say, oh, you changed. You're no longer the same person you was. Yeah, I bet I'm not. Oh, you mean the mat? Oh, yeah. The mat that you are able to walk on? Oh, yeah, I'm not that anymore. Yeah, you're right. You can't feel guilty, and you may feel guilty, but just remind yourself that you are setting boundaries. So when people are going to, some, maybe not all, start to gaslight you into why you should do the thing. Oh, come to the party with me. You always come to the party with me. You're always my plus one. Well, not today. Not today. Excuse me. Not today. Today, I'm going to knit. I'm going to make some tea, and I'm going to finish that blanket that I've been working on for the last 2 years. I'm just saying. I mean, low key, I gotta, but yeah, it's okay. And when I started exercising my right to say no and setting boundaries, even and saying no to yourself, that's a big one. That's a big one. I think that's the ultimate one, because you're it too. You're a push. You more than likely are pushing yourself over more than others. We always do it to ourselves first before others do it to us, right? So you might be the first one up where you have to get yourself together. More than likely, yes. You may have to omit certain things that you used to find solace in. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Maybe you may not need that extra glass of wine. Maybe you may not want to have to puff that little, excuse me, Maybe you got things to do and you can't partake in certain vices anymore because you got things to do. So you have to say no. And like I said, no one likes to hear no. No one likes to hear no, especially not you. We like to say no to others, and that's a struggle to the people pleaser. So not only are you struggling to say no to others, now you also are struggling to say no to yourself. But there's always a rainbow at the end of the tunnel, guys. I kid you not. Because over the course of time, when you practice saying no, setting boundaries, allowing yourself to see and hear yourself, keep these promises that you are making to yourself, it's going to become like second skin. Even if you might feel like a little, after a while, it's going to roll right off your tongue. No, thank you. No. Even for you. Oh, I don't want to get up. Oh, let me get up because I got X, Y, and Z. Because you know that if you don't keep this promise to yourself, you know what comes after that. You know how you feel. You know how what it is making you vulnerable. You start to understand. You start to loathe not keeping promises to yourself. Now, I want to say it's not cut and dry. It's not to say that you're never going to submit to yourself or others. There's going to be times that we are only human. Nobody's perfect. But even with those times, you will still be in charge, because now what's going to happen is you're going to say, okay, so I am going to do something that I usually say no to. Is it worth it? Is this person worth it? What's going on that's even allowing me to even entertain this? Like, for instance, if you go to bed, I know I go to bed at 8:00, honey. I'm not even going to try to pretend 8:00 she's in the bed. 8:00. I am an early riser. I get up really early in the morning. So for me to enable myself to have adequate sleep, I go to bed early, and that's just something that works for me, So if somebody calls me at 7:30 right? Depending on who the person is, right? Because it's easier to pick up the phone from a person that respects your boundaries. So, when you see 7:45, 7:50, and you say, "Oh, I gotta go. It's almost 8 o'clock." They go, "Oh, okay." They wrap it up real quick because they know, they understand, they respect you, they respect your boundary. If anything, they are very grateful that you even picked up so close to the hour. You see what I'm saying? Now, if it's a person that is going to say, okay, but then they start a whole nother conversation, you may have to speak to them in the morning or whenever you see fit. Because again, this person is going to take for granted, rather than be grateful like the other person I mentioned, is going to take for granted that you are doing something for them in a time of need. Now, listen, if it's an emergency, I'm gonna leave that to you. You know when to do what and when not to do it. Because we do have relationships, and sometimes things are not always cut and dry. Outside of that, you are the master of your ship, and you are the captain of your soul. And I'm going to let you look up that quote and see who said it, because I can't remember right now. Anyway, guys, I love you so much. Be sure to check the links down below so you can see the full episode of this podcast at Elizabeth Magical Garden Podcast, where all the videos go live only on that particular platform, as well as check out my website at Elizabeth Magical Garden, where all that I create resides. Oh, that was a little tongue twister. All that I create resides on there as well. And you will be privy to any upcoming goodies that I have coming up this year. Guys, stay blessed, stay in love, stay in peace, and stay empowered. Peace.
Hey guys, leave a comment, a review, preferably 5 stars. And don't forget to check me out on Instagram, because what is popping over there. And also check out my YouTube channel to stay connected and see your girl's lovely face. Guys, I love you so much. Keep on pushing, and I'll definitely speak to you soon. Be blessed.